This is the screen we're going to be met with when the vehicle's first turned on. So as you can see, we've got our navigation from here. We've got the station that we're currently tuned to, so our radio, we can add a phone in, and then we've also got our heated steering wheel. So this is the premium version of the Mustang, which is why we have so many different options here. Moving into our audio section here, we've got a number of different sources that we can now choose between. We've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, Bluetooth. If we had our phone connected, we could choose our phone instead from here. Jumping down into climate now. So if we pop down just a tiny little bit, you can see we've got some climate control settings here. The majority of them, however, are going to be on that Sync3 screen. So starting from the top, we've got the auto mode, which is going to let the vehicle determine what the interior cabin temperature should be. We've got menu, which gives us our max AC, our max windshield defroster, as well as our heated steering wheel. From here, we can turn the system on or off. We've now also got dual zone climate control, so the driver passenger side can be a unique setting here. Now by default, it will go based off of whatever the driver's side setting is, unless the dual is activated here. Now if we press the dual button here, it's going to default to the driver's side setting. Turning that off from here. Now moving down a bit, we've got our driver passenger side, so whatever the heat or cool setting is that we'd like, and we can choose between blowing it to the windshield, our face, or our feet. And then this is going to be that fan control setting. Next up at the bottom here, we've got the air circulation button. So with that button turned on with the AC going, it's essentially going to pull air from outside the vehicle. If it's off, it's going to pull air from outside. Whereas if the circulation button's on, it's going to circulate air through the cabin instead. This is going to be our rear windshield defroster. And then we've got our air conditioning button here. Next up, moving into phones. In order to be able to add a phone, it's a very, very simple process. All we're going to do is hit the add phone button.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
And from here, we're going to make sure that our Bluetooth is turned on on our phone. And it takes a second, but now we can see we've got Ford Mustang showing up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Perfect. So the pin number is matched. So we're going to say yes and yes.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
And there we go. So guys, it's literally that simple to be able to connect a phone to this thing. From here, we've got 911 Assist. I will point out that 911 Assist does only work when your phone's connected to the vehicle. We can turn that one on right now and then hit finish here. So as you can see, we've got my recent calls, contacts, phone, text messages. We've got everything on the phone itself, which is really, really cool. In order to be able to remove a phone from the vehicle now, what we're going to do is jump into the settings menu. We can go to phones here, and we can view devices, manage contacts, etc. So if we go to view devices, we've got my phone that's currently connected here. A little bit of a tongue twister. From here, we can either disconnect from the phone or we can completely remove it from here. So let's remove now, and let's say yes, we're going to remove the phone. And jumping back into the phone now, as you can see, it's gone. Moving into the navigation. So there is built-in navigation in this specific vehicle here. Looking at search, very, very straightforward. This is where we're going to go in order to be able to search for an address. So I'd say go slow. Start typing in the address, a few keys here, and then pause for a second, because it will take a second to update. And there we go. So you can see we've got the address. That's the address of the dealership here. We're going to select it there. It takes a second. Now we can either save that as a favorite, or we can just start and navigate to it.
Obey traffic laws, be alert, and use voice commands while driving.
There we go. Nice and
Please
simple.
proceed to the highlighted route, and then the route guidance will start.
So this is the route that we're currently going to be taking. I know, very, very far. In order to cancel a route that you've currently got, we're just going to press this X button here and then say yes to cancel the route. There we go. Moving back up to the controls now, we've got our menu button here, which gives us the ability to change between different screen modes, traffic lists, navigation settings are going to be the big one here. Jumping into map preferences, we've got different options. So the big one's going to be that point of interest icon. So that's going to show us gas stations and coffee shops and things like that. We can turn that on or off. Back to our route preferences now. That's where we can choose a couple different options. Big one is going to be our fastest preferred route. So either fastest, shortest, or the most eco-friendly. Moving down a little bit, as you can see, we've got avoid freeways, toll roads, cars, ferries, etc. So if you're not a fan of taking toll roads, you can select that there. And when the navigation sets up your route, it's going to avoid those for you. And then from there, we've got our navigation preferences, so that we can either have voice and tones, voice only, or our tones for the prompts as we get closer to an upcoming turn. And moving back from here, so we're finished up with our navigation now. Actually, one thing I'll point out, if you want to set up your home or work address, we can do that on this screen here. So jumping into navigation, home or work, we'd set up our address there. Moving into apps here, so the vehicle itself is capable of supporting Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay, you do actually have to be connected to the vehicle for it to work, whereas Android Auto can be done over Bluetooth. So we just, same thing, add a phone in. Once the phone's connected, our phone will show up here, as well as any apps that are compatible. The big one's gonna be mobile apps, so things like Spotify, LiveX Live, or the Waze app, you can actually mirror onto the center console screen here. Really, really cool. Moving into the settings now. So starting off, we've got our sound settings here. So we can change the treble, mid-range, bass, all that fun stuff. Moving back into our clock now. So clock is going to be default on our standard 12-hour time, so our AM, PM. If your preference is the military time, we're just going to jump into that 12-hour mode here, or 24-hour mode, I should say, instead. And we've got a few other settings here. So auto daylight savings time, that's automatically going to spring us forward or make us fall back an hour, depending on the time of year. And we've also got the auto time zone update. That's automatically going to update the clock on the vehicle depending on which time zone we're currently in. So if we're in, let's say, the West Coast and we're moving east, as we get further and further out, we're going forward an hour at a time. So it's automatically going to adjust the clock for you. So keep that one turned on. It just makes sense. Moving back, we've now got our Bluetooth settings. Bluetooth we can turn off, or we can add a device in from here, whether that's our cell phone adding that back in, or a Bluetooth-enabled MP3 player. Next up, our phone. That's the same section that we'd go to for here in order to be able to add a phone in. Radio, we can turn off auto set, yes, no. 911 assist. So again, we do have to have our phone connected for 911 assist to work. Next up, we've got our navigation settings, which are, again, those same settings that we found in that navigation menu there. Mobile apps, we've already gone over that. So the vehicle does support certain mobile apps. So we can either enable apps via USB, mobile apps, etc. Moving over, we've now got some general settings on the vehicle, so we can search between languages, so English, Spanish, French. There we go. Or we can go between Celsius or Fahrenheit, kilometers or miles. That beep that we're getting here. If you don't like that beep, turn it off. There you go, nice and quiet now. Another one to point out, so we've got our automatic system updates, which is automatically going to update the firmware and software in the vehicle. The only thing that's not going to get updated would be the navigation. So when your vehicle's in for service, you can have the service techs upgrade the navigation for you, update it I should say, or you can download the maps and you can do it yourself. Only other one I'm going to point out is going to be this reset. So if you're selling your vehicle, or for whatever reason the vehicle's giving you some weird errors or issues at all with this screen here, we can just do a master reset to reset it to our factory default. A couple other ones, we've already gone over the automatic updates. We want to make sure that automatic updates are on. The vehicle also is enabled with a wireless hotspot, which is kind of cool. So that's where we get into our Ford Pass Connect. So the vehicle does have a modem built in. With a data plan attached to the vehicle, you can use it as a hotspot for up to 10 devices. Really, really cool setting there. Moving into some vehicle settings now. We've got camera settings and our serial number. And now we've got some display options. So we've got a nice bright display here. If you have a preference of not looking at the display, you can turn it off completely and then press the screen in order to be able to turn it back on again. Got some options for the background display and then our mode. So currently, right now, we're in our daytime mode. There's 3 different options. So our auto is going to flip between daytime or nighttime. I personally think that the nighttime mode looks really, really sharp, just because I love blue. So if you have a preference, you can leave it to nighttime mode all the time, or you can let the vehicle decide if it should be in day or night mode. Back up, we've now got our voice control here. So voice control settings, we've got a few options. I want you to listen up for a second here. Tune to 97.7.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
So as you heard there, we got a little bit of a prompt. So the advanced mode now, it's essentially going to get rid of a number of the prompts that we would normally get. So let's try changing the station again. Tune to 94.9. Okay, so it's now changed the station. However, just to show you that it actually did change the station. There we go. So we are on 94.9 instead. So it does allow you to change the station without getting all of those extra prompts. Phone confirmation is going to ask us whether or not we want to have the phone call made. So would you like to call such and such person? And then our voice command list is this list here. When you press the voice command button on the steering wheel, so this here is our phone command list. Our voice command list, so we can turn that on or off. It's personal preference there. Last one to point out on the screen is going to be our Valet Mode. With Valet Mode enabled, it essentially locks the screen out so people can't play around with all the buttons. So all we're going to do is enter a 4-digit combination and press done, and now as you can see, the vehicle is completely locked out, so we can't do anything to the screen now until we enter our 4-digit combination. Please, if you're using the Valet Mode, don't use 1, 2, 3, 4. Use something that's a little bit more challenging to guess. And now let's move down a tiny little bit. Look at some options here. So we've got our volume rocker. So we can adjust the volume from here. We can manually tune. So if you have a preference to manually tune the station, you can do it from here. So we can manually tune up on the screen here. We can also direct tune if you have a preference there. But the vehicle is equipped with voice-activated navigation and voice-activated radio tuning. So I would say just use your voice in order to change the station. Yeah, personal preference. From here, we can switch between stations or songs. We can turn the radio on or off. We can play pause, or we can jump into our audio settings from here. Press that button again in order to go back. Now, one of the really, really nice things about the Mustang Premium, whether it's the GT or the EcoBoost, is you've got heated and cooled seats. And these cooled seats on these hot summer days are a lifesaver. I love ventilated seats. So kudos to Ford for doing that. It's fantastic. Now from here, we've got our fan control settings for the driver and passenger side. As I mentioned, so it is going to default to whatever the passenger or whatever the driver's side is set to. And then, so let's say if the passenger likes it a little bit warmer, all of a sudden we are in that dual zone climate control again. So we can turn that off in order for it to default to the driver's side. Moving back down from here, so we can turn that system off completely. We can go max AC, regular AC. We can control our fan speed from here. We can go for windshield defrost, rear windshield defrost, or rear window defrost, I should say, our air circulation button, or our auto button. So again, letting the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be. Moving down a tiny little bit, so we can just kind of make out, see, we've got 4 individual knobs here. So these selector toggles, first one here is going to be for our 4-way blinkers. Next up, we've got, 3 individual ones. So this is going to turn traction control on or off. So flick up for on, flick back up for off. And from here, we've got different drive modes. So normal steering, sport steering, or our comfort steering. And next up is going to be our different drive modes. So we've got normal mode, sport, track, drag, wet, and snow, or normal mode again. Moving down a tiny little bit, as you can see, we've got one USB port here. And then we've also got our gear shift. So this is a automatic, which means that we've got our park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then our sport mode.